Welcome to Just a Cup on Bleav. I am Bryan Fetzer, your host, and this is an organic conversation with some of the world's greatest athletes, and I have one today for sure. And the coaches and individuals that help them along the way. We're going to talk a bunch of different areas, and today I have an extreme pleasure to have really kind of a badass woman. I mean, to pardon my my language, but Chelsea Sodaro, who is, I mean, let me give you some perspective before getting into talking to Chelsea. That she was 33 years old and won the world championship in the Ironman, which is kind of crazy. And then has proceeded to just kind of take the world triathlon by storm. And we're going to talk about a bunch of it because her story is completely fascinating. And I could go on and ramble a bunch, but Chelsea, thanks for joining me.
Thanks, Fetzer. It's so good to see you. We go way back, so this is especially fun for me.
No, this is awesome. I mean, we were just talking before about, recruiting you to become a Cal Bear, and then, you become an elite runner in college or right outside of college. And you had, All-American, all those great accolades. And then you kind of take a turn after basically the 2016 Olympic trials, and you kind of move out of what we'll call, normal running. It's not really normal, I guess, but, running at an elite level and move into a triathlon. What in the world caused the move?
Yeah, it has been a crazy pivot and definitely unexpected. I feel like I have this whole new chapter and chance at a pro sports career, which is very rare for a lot of athletes, especially to now be in my mid-30s and still competing at a very high level. But I had a hard time staying healthy as a runner. When I could stay healthy for, a stretch of time, I would have these moments of brilliance where I thought I could compete at the, very highest levels, pinnacle of track and field. And I went into the 2016 Olympic trials injured, not as fit as I should have been, and had a super disappointing day there. But the good news is that I had been following triathlon as a fan. The American women were very competitive at that time and medal favorites for the Olympic distance triathlon in Rio. And a woman from the US ended up winning the race. And this was exciting to watch. And my husband turned to me on the couch one day and said, "You're always injured. You know how to swim and bike for cross training. Why don't you try this? I think you could be really good at it." And initially I just laughed and thought it was a stupid idea, but he got me a bike and we started riding together, and I joined a master's group, and that got the ball rolling.
That is so amazing. I mean, okay. When you won the World Ironman Championships, which is crazy, just to think, knowing what that all entails, the bike, the swim, the run. You were the first American woman in over 20 years to win at Kona. What was the first thing you thought of when you crossed the finish line?
Well, initially I grabbed the finish line and I just couldn't stop saying, "Oh my God." I had a good training block leading into that race, but I never did the math of what my fitness would add up to. And at that time, it turns my fitness added up to the second fastest time ever done on that course and first place on the day. So I think I was just executing my process and honestly having a lot of fun out there. I led the marathon for 19 miles. So I had like the helicopter over me for 2 hours, and people really got behind me on the course because, I was an American woman and there was a lot of surprise. So I had all these people following me on the course. And then when I was running back into town, you run on this big highway in Kona, and it's about 10K back into town for the last stretch of the race. So all of the amateur athletes were headed out the other way towards like the toughest part of the course. And they were cheering for me and telling them to like do it for my daughter and for all of the moms. And I really felt like buoyed by this community and like really celebrated by some of my competitors even cheering for me. So I had some time to like I guess, soak in the lead, but I wouldn't allow myself to like think about winning until I crossed the line, because as we know, in long distance races, anything could happen. You could like pull a muscle or a cramp or whatever. So I didn't want to think about, the finish line until I could literally see it.
Well, I mean, you mentioned mother, and we're going to spend a little time talking about that because I think it's so amazing. And when I had a chance to have Melinda Elmore on, who kind of similar. I mean, she kind of went the way back to running marathons after, but she started out similar to you, across the bay in Stanford, running, distance running, and then left that to go into triathlon, and then, came back to marathon afterwards. But, she talked about being a mom, and it's so incredible and so encouraging, to hear stories of somebody that, has success after becoming a mother in sports, because most people just, you're a mom, you're done, your career's over with. What's it like being a mom and being one of the best in the world?
Yeah, I mean, Ironman is conducive to a very selfish lifestyle. And I think so much of, the training and that lifestyle is about you and, like your training and your sleep and your recovery. Whereas being a mom is a very selfless existence. It's all about giving to this new little person in your life. So it has been, I think, the ultimate sort of dichotomy of combining two different lives into one pursuit. But I really stand on the shoulders of other women who have paved the way for me, like Allison Felix, Alicia Montano, my longtime running coach and biggest mentor in my life, Magda Boulay, made the Olympic team with a 2-year-old while coaching me at Cal. My mom actually went to started medical school when I was 1 year old. And so I have been surrounded by these women pursuing massive professional goals while also being really wonderful parents to their children. And I think, when I look back on this period of time, 10 years from now, I will, have a certain element of pride in the achievements, but ultimately I'm way more proud of the way I've moved the needle forward for the women who are going to follow me with, the pursuit of maternity protection and sponsorships and from race organizations and these kind of things.
Oh, those are some amazing women you just mentioned for sure. So let's talk being a mother. Your daughter's name's Skylar.
Mm-hmm.
How did that come? I mean, everybody has a reason for naming their children what they name them. Why Skylar?
I have loved the name for a really long time, and we were floating around a few different options and had narrowed it down to 2 before she was born. But, when she came into the world, we just looked into her eyes and knew she was made for us. And she looked like a sky. She has these really bright, beautiful eyes. And her full name is Skylar Una Sodaro, and her middle name is Gaelic. And it means the personification of truth, beauty, and unity, which felt like such a beautiful message during the pandemic. She's a pandemic baby, and we were social distancing when she was born, which was the whole thing. But she's brought so much joy and light into our lives and really brought our whole extended family together, and has been, the ultimate privilege to raise.
Now you talk about privilege. I mean, that child has been all over the world. I mean, there's going to be one time that, her passport's probably full. I mean, I guess they don't stamp them anymore, but I mean, she's got to experience the globe with you as an elite athlete traveling around. Has there been any funny stories or kind of things for her?
Oh my gosh.
In some other foreign country?
It's been an adventure. She came on her first training camp with me when she was 3 months old, and we went to Boulder, but we drove from California to Boulder, which was, I think it's when you're a new mom, you just do. You don't think too hard about things and you get it done. And then when you look back a few months later, you're like, how did I do that? But when she was about a year old, I got talked into going to training camp in Spain. And my husband couldn't go. And I ended up flying a nanny who I'd never met to Spain. And she ended up being awesome, which was like a total silver lining of this whole thing. And we're still in touch with her. But I flew by myself with Sky and all my bike stuff and all of the baby stuff to Spain. And I was very calculated about how long the travel would be and the layover. And it was going to be a 13 hours total from like San Francisco arriving in Spain. And when we were boarding the flight in San Francisco, we were delayed and it was very clear that things were going to get funky with our layover. And I was trying to be like cheap and booking the travel. And I booked through Expedia or something. And I am like starting to cry in the airport. And my dad had taken me and Sky, and he was like, you don't have to get on the plane if you don't want to go, like just stay home. I said, I need to go. I need to do this. I'm like still committed to my work. Like I want to be excellent. We're going to do it. And, we take this flight we flew through Dublin and we get to Dublin. I know we get to Dublin. We had missed our connection because of like my Expedia situation. They had to completely rebook us on a different airline and we get stuck in Dublin for 24 hours. And I have to take like all of the bike stuff and all of the baby stuff to an airport hotel like miles away. Anyway, it was a whole thing.
I mean, Dublin's a great place to be. Dublin's a great place to be if you're single or you're couple having fun. But I couldn't imagine with a baby. That's
so we like endure this situation. We're in Europe for 3 weeks. It's kind of a cluster. I have a bad race. Unsurprisingly, I have a really rough race at the end of this block, and we're flying home and we're in economy. And she's being a 1-year-old, as you are. You're not that happy to be stuck in one place. And I can tell people around us are getting a little agitated. And I'm just like at my wit's end. And I flagged in the flight attendant, like, excuse me, do you have any space in business? And she goes, it's going to be $1,000. And I'm like, no problem. And I hand her my credit card, and she can't get her like card reader to work.
oh,
Goes, it's fine. Just come up. We'll just like move you up to business and we'll figure it all out there. And I get to business with my 1-year-old and there's good snacks. And I'm like, everything is awesome. And this couple decides that they want to take a nap in the middle of the flight. And my child like won't nap on command. So homegirl is having a party in business while everyone else wants to nap. And the flight attendant comes back to me and she goes, excuse me, ma'am, could you come take a walk with me? And she proceeds to escort us to the very back of the plane. And I have to like rock Sky there for 3 hours to try and get her to fall asleep. It was not funny at the time, but it's character building and we made it through.
Oh, that is worth the price of admission right there. Just right there. I mean, it's maybe they're that young. What can they say? What can they do?
I know.
What after all your travels to different countries, what's your favorite that you've been to outside the US?
Oh my goodness, that's tough. We spent 3 months in New Zealand earlier this year, which was spectacular. And the culture there is very chill, which is good for somebody like me who's pretty high strung. And it's really family friendly. We were staying, from walking distance from the beach, and it's such a beautiful place. So that's probably my favorite.